we go up there, and while we wind up, we were there a little early, and we walk up there, and it's just me sitting there, and the only other person at the table is Wayne Simien. So he's about to speak, and it's just me and him sitting there for the first 20 minutes. I'm like, hey, he goes, hey, I'm Wayne. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
Are you ready, big dog?
I'm ready.
Did I even tell you what we're doing?
Nope.
Welcome to Kansas QB, a podcast about growing up in rural Kansas, hosted by two former high school quarterbacks. And now, here are your manly hosts, Steve Jewell and Tyler Martin.
Yee-haw!
Ride 'em, cowboy.
Growing up in the cornfields of the Sunflower State, we were inseparable. Brothers from different mothers who also happened to be sisters. Our moms, not us. Decades later, he's in Iowa, and I'm in Missouri, but we'll always have Kansas. And we'll always be the QB. Hi, folks, and welcome to the show. I'm Steve. He's Tyler. And today's episode is entitled Rock Shock. Hey, Tyler. Sad news relating to Kansas. I know that we here at Kansas QB are bummed.
Very bummed. Kansas is out of the tournament. It is difficult for my household. They are big Jayhawk fans. They have been indoctrinated that way, brainwashed, some would say. And not that it's the first time that KU's been upset in the first or second round.
Nope.
But it really, it's tough to be in this situation where your school is not playing. We don't see that very often. And now I'm reminded once again this year, like I didn't have a whole lot of interest in watching games today until my second favorite team took the court.
And you know, there might be people out there to be like, wait. How are you going to be a KU fan and a K-State fan? As a matter of fact, right now, I think Charlotte McElroy, if she's watching this on video, she probably just turned us off. But more on that here in just a second. I mean, we're Kansas QB. We didn't say Kansas University QB. We support, just the state of Kansas. And I think that has to be okay. But first, Tyler, before we go to the next point here, I want to point out and apologize to the folks at home for the fact that we missed 2 out of our last 3 podcast times just because we got a little busy. Got a little spring break action, got a little time that we were spending with our families, and it was one of those. Could we do one on the phone? Yes, we could have done one on the phone, but it just wasn't going to be quite the same. We do have some things dialed up now, so bear with us. Yes. Now, we could have done on the phone. We're spending time with family, but honestly, for me, it was kind of the opposite. I just got really busy at work. So I just was up late, parent-teacher conferences, getting grades in and doing all that stuff. So that was my excuse. And now, my wife's not even around. She's in Colorado somewhere. I don't know. I'm a single dad. That's why we're doing this right now from my actual home. Like, I'm actually at my house right now, which I never do at my house. I'm usually at my office, but here I am, with the different lighting, but I got a lot of the same equipment here, and I hope it sounds okay. I think it does. I think it sounds okay. But Tyler, you're wearing a K-State shirt right now, Tyler.
I am.
You're wearing a K-State shirt. So we, of course, were raised KU fans, and since we had many friends that were Kansas State fans, and there was a little bit of a rivalry there. It took us a while to get to a place emotionally where we could cheer for both of the major Kansas athletics programs. My question is, when did you begin not to despise K-State? Because I remember, folks like Eric Furman. Remember that guy? I remember guys, there's a whole range of them at Midway because K-State's more on the architectural, or not architectural, that would be KU, agricultural side of things. And so we had a lot of farmer friends. And so there's a lot of K-State in Midway. Because for a long time there, it was like KU, K-State. You remember the good, the bad, the ugly T-shirts? It was good, the bad, and the ugly. And MU was always the bad. But the ugly was always the opposite of KU or K-State. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, and at least for us, when Mark and Nancy moved to Kansas, we didn't really have a dog in the fight. Like, our family's from Iowa. And when they moved down, it just so happened that the couple friends that they had namely the Winchesters and the Schultzes. They were both Kansas fans. Not that made my mom and dad, which my mom is a Kansas fan on whatever, but it was just easier to cheer for them. And also when they moved down, the Jayhawks were really good. K-State was not very good at football at that point. That was at the beginning of up here they call him the Vampire, Bill Snyder's reign. There's a little more animosity to K-State football up here with the Farmageddon rivalry with Iowa State. But I was always, it was easy to cheer for KU because that was closer to us. We could get down there a little easier. As I grew up and as we grew up, most of our friends were K-State fans. And you said Eric Furman. Eric Furman is one of the reasons that I wanted to cheer for K-State because he was one of my really good friends. And it just, there was so much animosity that I didn't get, not family being from the state of Kansas. And now living in Iowa, if you don't hate the other Iowa team, there's something wrong with you. So I cheer for both Kansas. Here's the other thing. I cheer for Wichita State as well.
Yeah,
like I cheer for them all.
Me too.
Yeah. And up here now, I cheer for both Iowa teams as long as they're playing. And it's just I've been associated with other colleges long enough that my favorite school does not happen to be on the same playing field as the teams we're cheering for. So I feel like I can cheer for whoever.
Yeah.
And my kids now, though, they don't like Iowa. They don't like Iowa State. They cheer for Kansas.
Yeah.
And today was been a day of mourning.
It's a day of mourning. It's been, 2 days since they lost, and we're hanging in there. We're hanging in there, folks. We're doing okay.
Yeah.
I quickly tell my story really fast. I went to Kansas State University. I went to Manhattan Christian College. That's where I went. Manhattan Christian College. Just bumped into, by the way, my coach from college. So wonderful seeing him. So many great memories from Manhattan. So living in Manhattan, I was determined not to become a K-State fan because I had disliked K-State all the way through high school because I was a KU fan, right? And so you couldn't like both. I found out when I went to St. Joe, I definitely didn't like Missouri. So sorry for those of you out here. I know we got some MU fans that listen to this. It is the Kansas QB podcast. Not a big fan of the Missouri Tigers. I think that's something Tyler and I agree on. Didn't like K-State either. Well, I went to Manhattan Christian College. The first year, all of my classes were at MCC. I lived right on Aggieville. And so I would walk through Aggieville with my Paul Pierce jersey, and I didn't even care. And as a matter of fact, a lot of times I go through Aggieville with all these drunk college kids with my walking to Kevin's dorm. I wasn't partaking in the enjoyments that they all were, but I was walking through with my Paul Pierce jersey on with my Nebraska hat because I had a Nebraska hat because I went to we went to their camp, and so I got a hat when I was down there. And you know what? I was like, whatever. I'm not a K-State fan. It's okay. I'm an MCC guy. It's fine. Well, okay, fast forward 2 years. I'm in an accounting class, okay? I've met a lot of people from K-State that I really, really liked. I go to the Kansas State rec to work out. I love shooting baskets at the Kansas State rec, right? So I'm kind of softening a little bit on the whole K-State thing. Well, then I'm sitting by these two guys in accounting, right? Have I told you this story before? And
No.
And so I'm sitting by these two guys in accounting, and it comes up at some point that the guy I'm sitting next to was a former kicker of Kansas State's little brother. And I recognized the name just from watching in high school. It's like, and it was Joe Ream was a kicker for Kansas State, and it was his little brother. Yeah. And so I sat by, I was like, oh, okay, you had that connection to K-State. I was like, okay, cool. Well, one day, the other guy we sat by, Dylan, he wasn't at class. I was like, hey, where's Dylan? He's like, well, the football team had to go do a thing. And I was like, oh, is Dylan playing on the team? And he looked at me and said, yeah, he's the quarterback. I was like, what? So I was sitting by the quarterback of the team in accounting class, and he was really nice. He didn't look like a quarterback, just in my defense. But anyway, so once I realized that I was sitting next to the quarterback for the team, of course, then I had to cheer for him. Well, then I met some guys from some of the other teams, and pretty soon I was cheering I'll cheer for the football team, but I'm not going to cheer for the basketball team. And then pretty last, okay, I'll cheer for the basketball team, but I'm not going to cheer for lacrosse or whatever else. Pretty soon I was like, okay, fine. I'm just going to cheer for all the teams from Kansas. And so when I left Manhattan, a KU and Kansas State fan, and it rubs the Kansas State fans the wrong way sometimes that I'm a KU fan. It rubs the KU fans the wrong way that I'm a K-State fan. You know what, Tyler? It's fine. It's fine as long as we don't cheer for Mizzou, right?
100%. My biggest thing up here now is I get accused of being, oh, it's fall, you're a K-State fan, and then now it's Christmas. So did you put your K-State clothes back in the tub, and now you got your KU? Like that bothers me more than I would like to say.
Yeah, makes you feel like a fair weather fan. But we're supporting Kansas. We're supporting Kansas, and at the very least, on this podcast, that has to be okay.
Next episode, I will just wear a straight Kansas shirt, and I've got a couple just Kansas shirts because that is one thing about living out of state now. I feel like I am a true son of Kansas, and I appreciate the state. I love the state. That was my home state. I'll cheer for everybody, but right now, let's go Wildcats. I'm bummed about the Jayhawks. We're going to talk about the Jayhawks more, but hey, today, EMA.
Broken News is brought to you today by our friend Matt, Mike Hubble, Carmen of Midway, my man Jonah, Mark and Nancy, Darren Football, and Car Guy Dave. If you'd like to be a friend of the show, head on over to www.patreon.com/KansasQB. And of course, we would love for you to subscribe to the Jewel Media LLC YouTube channel, as well as download the show on your favorite podcasting platform.
Broken News.
As we like to say, if it ain't broken, it ain't news. Breaking news is for tryhards, and we no longer have the stamina for that kind of effort. So we take stories that have already been broken and share them with the folks at home. Have you heard about this, Tyler? According to the website fox4kc.com, the Jayhawks lost to the Arkansas Razorbacks in the second round of the 2023 NCAA tournament.
No.
The things we remember.
We're getting older, and we've already forgotten more than we ever knew. But some memories still cling to our brain parts, like my tears to the floor at the Manhattan Christian College Campus Center when Kirk Heinrich missed the three-point shot from the top of the key with 15 seconds to go to lose the national championship to Carmelo Anthony's Syracuse Orangemen in what would prove to be Roy Williams' final game as the KU Jayhawks head coach. There was a lot of sadness. A lot of sadness there. This list includes memories from our time growing up in Kansas. Let's see just how well we can remember. In the Broken News segment, we learned that KU did not win the NCAA tournament this year. However, this year saw some fantastic performances by some very good Jayhawks, which made me wonder, Mr. Wardrobe Change, who would I put?
See what I did there?
I see what you did there. Well, the folks that are listening on the podcast have no idea what you just did.
They don't understand. Yeah.
He's now wearing a Kansas, like we switched the things that we remember, and all of a sudden he's wearing a KU Jayhawks tank top, that jersey, little Thomas Robinson. Did you see that? Did you show the zero? Little Thomas Robinson
we got the
action,
zero there too,
or Drew Gooden, or one of the classic zeros.
Pick somebody.
Who would I put, Tyler, on my list of all-time Jayhawks? That's the question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it always seems funny. Like when the football season ends, or I'm not quite ready for basketball season to begin. Hopefully, our football season way overlaps into basketball, and games have already been played, and then I have to be like reconnected with the team, and and then it's like the new guys, and I'm excited now because my dad, my sister, and I have talked in the past about these names. My kids are now old enough to start remembering teams of their past, and I've filled them in, and we've watched old games before. But talking about past KU basketball teams always brings a smile to my face. And right now, I can use a smile on my face when we talk about Kansas basketball.
Me too, Tyler. Me too. So we intentionally skipped the Broken News segment because who wants to relive Saturday's game? Not me. Not you, not me. We've instead combined Broken News and Things We Remember into one big segment. 10 years ago, Yard Barker put together a top 50 list for all-time Jayhawks. This is their list, not ours. We are going to take a look at that list. We didn't have time, Tyler, to go through and vote you and what would be the Kansas QB official top 50 list. Maybe someday we'll want to do that. We didn't take the time to do that. Instead, we're going to take their top 50 list, and we're going to go through it. And we're going to decide, of this list, who are some of our favorites. So as we go through, I've actually picked out 8. I thought you'd steal some of mine. I actually wanted to pick like 20. It was very hard to trim it down even to 8. I'm gonna try to cut down to 5. I'm gonna skip a couple of them. Go ahead.
We're gonna skip a few. 2 years ago, I broke down the all Bill Self era Jayhawks, and I've got that pulled up. I didn't share it with you, but I've got some guys on here that are not mentioned because, like I said, this list that is from 10 years ago. This was the broken news segment. It's 10 years old.
That's what we do.
This is old.
There was newer
in the
lists,
last 10 years. There's been a bunch of good Jayhawk players. We'll get to those guys, but we're going to talk about the history.
How about this, Tyler? How about this? We're going to pick our 5 favorite players as we do this top 50 list from the list.
Okay.
Again, these are not necessarily the best players. These are just the ones that are connected to us in some ways, like story-wise, or just, something we appreciate about these guys that would say, according to this top 50, what were our 5 favorite players, okay? We're going to pick one player.
We can skip like Kevin. We can skip Kevin Pritchard and Paul McKeskey and Mark Turgeon. Like,
we're gonna say their names.
Favorites.
We're gonna say their names, but then we're gonna kind of like we did the movie, the top 50 movie list we did. Of course, that one took forever.
And that was such a fun episode.
It was fun. I thought it was fun. So, okay, but then after that, here's the next part of it. The next rule is you're gonna have to also pick one player from this time period, which is the beginning of KU basketball, all the way through 2012. You're going to pick one player through that time that wasn't on the list that you say maybe should have been on the list, or at the very least is a favorite, and you have to give a reason why, who would have played in that time period. Through 2012.
This is still going, remember, this is just going through 2012.
Yes, it's going just 2012.
Done. Easy.
And then the next step after that's going to be, we're then going to pick 2 players, because again, this is broken news. We're going to get 2 players since 2012. So in the last decade, our 2 favorite players are 2 of our favorite players in the last decade. Was that confusing enough?
Done.
Okay. So we're going to pick 5 on this top 50 list. We're going to add 1 to the top 50 list, and then we're going to pick 2 from the last decade. That's all there is to it.
We can go through these fairly quickly because the first one on the list is Xavier Henry, who was only there for just 1 year, 09-10. And
one and done.
Player, one and done. Could easily be, when you look back on if you're going to draft your favorite Jayhawk teams, he could be on that list. Moving on, 49, Kenny Gregory. Do you have anything to say about Kenny?
I loved watching Kenny Gregory. Was he number 20? That's what I remember. I loved watching Kenny Gregory play. Couldn't shoot to save his life. Frustrated the heck out of me. But boy, I love to see him drive to the basket. Man, he could do that.
Yeah.
Number 48, Tyler. Mark Turgeon.
He was before our time watching. So as a great shooter, a good Jayhawk, but just not one of our guys.
I remember him as a coach, though.
McKeskey.
But he was a coach, though.
Mark Turgeon. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But we're not talking about him as a coach. We're talking about him as a player.
Continue.
Paul McKeskey played in the 70s. Don't know much about him. Tony Guy, same thing, 78 to 82. 45, Tyshawn Taylor. Now, I will say, of the Jayhawks, my favorite players always tended to be the point guards, which was what I played, and I always looked up to a bunch of. Tyshawn was after I was in high school playing basketball, but Tyshawn Taylor definitely made an impact, including helping out to win some stuff. But again, not one of the guys, not my favorite point guard. We're getting to that. Nope.
Kevin Pritchard's number 44. Again, we've got an old-timey guy, though he was on the team with the Danny and the Miracles. So I would have watched him play in that national championship game that we saw over and over again when I was a kid. He also played in the NBA. Darrell Arthur. Now, there's a newer name. Boy, I love Darrell Arthur.
Which could also be
another
a
zero.
jersey for Darrell Arthur. He was a 0 guy.
Oh, he was so
good. All first team, all Big 12. But nope, not one of the guys I'm going to stop and talk about. B.H. Bourne from 51 to 52.
Well, let's stop and talk about him.
Okay. Why?
Okay, yeah, keep going.
Okay. But when we get to the next one, 41, Jared Haas.
Okay, we're going to stop right now. I think it's time to call your sister.
Hello?
Ladies and gentlemen, coming on to the show now, our cousin/sister, Becky Martin Parker. Becky Parker, were you aware that I was going to call you? This isn't a surprise, is it?
Yes, this one is not a surprise, no. Gave me a heads up today.
Nailed it. Okay, so Becky Parker, we're going through a top 50 list of the greatest Jayhawks of all time. We're stopping at some of our favorites, and I just thought, because I had snagged 8 that I was only supposed to pick 5, and I chose 8. And I thought if I called you before I got to number 41 on this list, there's a chance you might want to steal one of these from me. That way I can cheat and still get to talk about him without actually having to have him on my list. Number 41 on this list played from 1994 to 1997. He was a coach, still is a coach at Stanford University. He also once wrote a book called Floor Burns that I remember you having. So who would be your favorite Jayhawk of all time? And would it not be Jared Haas?
Well, Jared Haas would definitely be in the top, certainly on my favorite Kansas team of all time, and that's hard to say, but I think I can confidently say that. Actually, his teammate Jacques Vaughn would be my favorite Kansas player of all time. However, I was and am a Jared Haas fan, yes.
Is my memory correct? Were you possibly interested in being Mrs. Haas at one time, or is that just a...
No, I was 14, 15. No. I did greatly admire him as a basketball player, and I think though it was more the guys that came after him, like the Ryan Robertsons. That was more.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ryan Robertson. That was a good-looking guy too. Was he like a 6'7" shooting guard? Right. I remember Ryan Robertson. He was drafted. Oh man, who was he drafted by? Like at the end of the first round, wasn't he drafted into the NBA?
It seems like it. I don't remember. I honestly.
I always had something against. He was from St. Charles, Missouri, which you're that close. You're from Missouri. I have a problem with that. I did back then. Now I don't. Like,
heck no. He chose correctly.
Back then, yeah, exactly. But I had a problem with him. I didn't know if I could trust him.
I loved Ryan Roberts. Okay, so is that your choice? Jacques Vaughn, Becky?
Jacques Vaughn would be my choice. Yes. There's too many to even count. But
I know.
Yeah, I'd go with Jacques Vaughn.
I called you hoping that you could take one of the ones off my list, and instead you took like the number 1 off of Tyler's list.
Oh, gosh.
Just like Becky, huh, Tyler?
Sorry.
Always taking the credit away
This
from you.
game always stays fun.
Oh, man. All right, Becky. Well, thank you so much for taking time. Hang in there. I know we lost. There's always next year.
There's always next year. And it's tough because I live in Arkansas, so.
How's your husband?
Gloating a little bit. He was made to leave the house to listen to the post-game show, so.
Oh, man. So kind of like as a 49er fan when the Chiefs beat the 49ers in 2019 and my wife was happy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I did tell some friends, okay, I'll wear a Razorback shirt, but give me until Thursday. I've got to have a week.
All right, Becky. Okay, you get some chocolate.
If I see you in a Razorback shirt, cancel Christmas.
It's over.
Listen. I graduated from the U of A.
That's actually true. She's got a degree from Arkansas, so I guess
I can't not. But I'll have Jayhawk socks or something.
There you go.
Here's the thing. At the end of the day, your Arkansas shirt always says Kansas on it.
100%. And in Little Rock, it's illegal to call the Arkansas River the Arkansas River. But you tell me, did we not learn in 4th grade that it's the Arkansas River?
Yeah, Mrs. Davis.
It's the Arkansas River.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
And on that night, Becky, you get some ice cream and some chocolate, got some fuzzy slippers, maybe watch a Meg Ryan, Tom Hanks movie, possibly Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore, and you just do what you got to do tonight, okay, Becky?
Okay, I'll recuperate. All right.
Stay strong. Thanks for joining us.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Yep. All right, so Jared Haas. I expected her to take Jared Haas. She didn't. All right, moving on. Number 40, Greg Dreiling, 1983 to 1986.
Dreiling.
This was before our time. Dreiling. See, I can't pronounce the name correctly. So we're going to skip him. Number 39 on our list.
Mark Randall. I do remember Mark Randall. He was right as we were getting into enjoying the Jayhawks as a basketball team, as we were getting old enough to enjoy sports, is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And he didn't play long in the NBA, but he was one of the first shooters that, like, hey, cool, let's watch this guy shoot. 38.
You know what? I'm gonna try. It didn't work last time, so I'm gonna try to get someone else to steal another one off my list. Like, It's not video, so if he answers in his underwear, it's fine.
We're still good.
Hello.
Hey, Dad, so sorry. This is Steve Jewell and Tyler Martin with the Kansas QB podcast. We just want to ask you a really quick question. Do you have a moment?
Sure. What do you need?
All right, so we're going through a list of our favorite Kansas Jayhawks of all time, and we got to number 38 on our list, and we're wondering if you have any stories regarding JoJo White.
Oh, JoJo White. Yeah, JoJo White, great person. I mean, very soft-spoken, and I took him to the Final Four in 1987. He shared a room with me, and he was laying on the bed, and he said, when I got out of college and started playing for the Celtics, he said, I had to pinch myself. He said, I couldn't believe they would pay me all this money just to do what I would have done for free.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Straight from the horse's mouth, an original first-hand account, well, second-hand to us, of JoJo White. Todd, did you know that my dad knew JoJo White?
Actually, I did.
All right, so there we go. All right.
Yes, he was actually my spokesperson and my demonstrator for the shot maker, the machine I invented, which he really liked because it fit him just well. And I actually had, I showed you those before, pictures of Kevin McHale from the Celtics shooting jump shots on my machine. So yeah, JoJo White was a great guy. I mean, I really liked him. And of course, we went to the Final Four tournament. And, there's always a coach's clinic there, and everybody brings their stuff, shoot away and all the stuff that people sell for basketball. And JoJo would stand there, and all these famous people would walk by, and they go, "Hey, JoJo." And JoJo would say, "Hey," and he'd talk to him a little bit and said, "Hey, you got to come over and see this machine." But he was just a really good guy.
All right. That's all we needed, Dad. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye. Yep. Bye.
So, yeah, that's a little bit of a flex,
Got a little flex on that. Those jerseys that are hanging up there in the rafters by the fog sign?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I took him to the Final Four.
Yeah, I know. He said that he was coaching him. Yeah. All right, so I was 38. You want to tell us? Let's make one more phone call. Let's not move anywhere else till we make one more phone call.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey, it's our friend Matt.
Yeah.
Matt.
Yeah.
So sorry it took so long to call. Actually, Tyler, I was going to wait until we got to one of his guys to call him, but he just texted me saying, hey, got to put the kids in bed pretty soon. You going to call or what? So anyways, my bad, Matt, for waiting so long. We took a little while.
No worry.
But hey, I just want you to know, Matt, this is how much I value your time. We stopped The Mandalorian. I hadn't finished episode 3 yet, and being a Star Wars nerd, as you know, because you joined me in that once upon a time.
Yep. I also haven't done episode 3, so yes.
Okay, halfway through, it's great so far, buddy. Great so far. All right, so we paused it just so that we could get this started because I was worried about you need to get to bedtime. So let's just do this real fast. Okay, so Matt, we've gone through our 50 through 38 on this list. The last one we talked about was JoJo White. I need to know.
Oh.
Yeah. Who is Matt Pally's favorite? You can give me your top 3 if you prefer, but who's Matt Pally's favorite Jayhawk of all time?
I don't know if I can do top 3. I don't even know if I can do, but this is just a list that comes into my head right now. Woodbury, Steve Woodbury, first Kansas Jayhawk I ever met in person at the Bob Chipman camp. Keith Langford, who's a true small forward, who was playing when I was a freshman there. Wayne Simien, who gave me a ride in the back of his pickup truck, one of the nicest players you will ever meet, a wonderful preacher. And then probably the last one was Thomas Robinson, who, man, oh man, he just overcame a lot of obstacles during his college career to make it to the NBA, and he is just an inspiration. And I'm sure I'm missing some people like Will Chamberlain and people like that, but those are my favorites.
Yeah. Oh, well done, Matt. Hey, round of applause. Any comments on Tyler on that before we let Matt go?
No. There's a few of those guys that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But Wayne Simien was our first. So when we moved to Des Moines, he was the keynote speaker at the first FCA banquet that we sponsored a table for through our business. And it just so happened that we were kind of late to doing it, and the head of the FCA in Iowa knew Steph from high school and said, hey, would you guys do this? Would you like to come? I'm like, yeah, okay. So we show up and he gives us our table number, and I'm starting to, when he says we're like 1C or 1 whatever it was, and I'm starting to look at the table numbers and how Like, I think we're really close. Oh my gosh. So we go up there, and we wind up, we were there a little early, and we walk up there, and it's just me sitting there, and the only other person at the table is Wayne Simien. So he's
my goodness.
speak, and it's just me and him sitting there for the first 20 minutes. I'm like, hey, he goes, hey, I'm Wayne. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And it was, yeah. So Wayne Simien is in my top 5 Jayhawks of all time, if not for his Jayhawk play, just for how cool of a guy he is.
Yeah, class act. Class act. Class act.
That's what I wanted to hear. All right, friend Matt, you can go put your kids to bed. Thanks for joining the show, buddy.
All right, thanks, buds. Talk to you later.
There goes our friend Matt. Okay, very good. Thank you, Matt. All right, so Matt says Wayne Simien. Good call.
Yep.
Among others. Dad knows JoJo White. You know Wayne Simien. Your sister.
There's a few on this list. We're going to go through this list quickly now. So 34, we're going to skip a few. Alonzo Jameson. He was kind of part of that in my mind. That first wave of Jayhawks as we were starting to take notice. Mm-hmm. Alonzo Jameson, Richard Scott, Matt just said Steve Woodbury.
Agreed. Now, you did skip Cole Aldridge and Ryan Robertson, which I have a problem with because I enjoyed Cole Aldridge, first of all. And secondly, Ryan Robertson, like I said, I know he got drafted. I think he was the Kings, and the second-round pick for the Kings. Your sister was obviously a big fan. We just found out.
Yeah.
But got to mention Cole Aldridge because he did play for who did he play for? A while. It was the Thunder. He played with Harden and he was
on that team, yeah.
Yeah, that had the 3 guys, Westbrook
and KD.
And KD, yeah. I was waiting for you to talk.
Did Nick? We're gonna get to Nick Collison. Did Nick ever get back to that team at the same time? He was with the Thunder for a while.
He was with the Thunder, but I think it's after Cole. Yeah.
Okay, we'll get to Nick.
All right, you mentioned Jameson.
Okay. So Jameson. Yeah. Walt Wesley, way before our time. Nick Bradford, who I would like to refer to as the walking turnover. Nothing wore me out more than just every time he touched the ball, I was afraid there was going to be a turnover happening.
I think we're pretty sure that Nick Bradford will never listen to the Kansas QB podcast. And if he does ever, I would like to apologize to Nick Bradford for 2 reasons. One, because I loved his tall socks. And so that makes what I'm about to say that much worse.
That's why we did it.
That's what we did. But number 2.
Actually, I did it. I didn't wear tall socks because of him. It was because of Kerry Kittle.
Yeah, okay. Well, there's that. And you made fun of my tall socks when our team came to play Northwest Missouri State, and everybody was making fun of me. And you're like, yeah, that guy's lame, isn't he? You didn't even mention I was your cousin, did you?
Oh, I had your back. If you want to go the full story, right. I had your back.
Well, I appreciate that.
You hard.
So Nick Bradford, though, how is he number 32 on this list? I'm just going to say that because he couldn't shoot. That's what. Am I remembering it wrong? I remember he didn't shoot very well.
He couldn't dribble. Like I don't.
I know he's a really good defensive player.
Sorry,
I remember that.
Yeah, he was. But
I think like
continuing on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, continue on.
Okay, this is one of my guys. This is one of my guys. Billy Thomas, number 12, 94 to 98. Again, this is during our formative years. A lot of things we talk about Kansas QB growing up. Billy Thomas, I loved him because of how he shot the ball. I just loved that every time we swung the ball around, he was going to make a shot. Because we talked about Jacques Vaughn. Jacques Vaughn couldn't shoot. Like Jacques Vaughn, I mean, he could, but he would never do it. He passed up so many threes, and it wasn't until his senior year that he shot some a little bit more. But Billy Thomas, he was going to put it in. Loved watching that man play.
He was going to shoot it. He wasn't always going to make it, but he was going to shoot it.
A little streaky, but I think he's still, is he second? Well, or he's in the top 5 all time. I think at one point he was second best in school history in three-pointers made.
At one time, and then he got passed by everybody in the last 10 years since this list came out.
Probably.
Sasha Khan, he was on the national championship team and actually had a big role in that game because we got in some foul trouble. 29, Milt Newton, no clue. 28, John Crawford, still a little before our time. 27, Rex Walters.
Rex! I loved Rex Walters. Again, maybe it's a thing where I looked at Rex Walters and I said that I could be that guy. Like I could be that. Like if I was going to play at KU, that's what I would have to make a lot of shots. I'd be the kind of slow white guy out there that they throw the ball to shoot. But Rex Walters was such a dynamic shooter, something I wasn't, obviously at that level. He even got drafted in the first round by the Nets. I got his rookie card, Tyler. I still have his rookie card with the Nets.
I remember that card. I remember that card. And he had a jump shot from the 3-point line. He would rise up and shoot it. 26, Keith Langford, who Matt mentioned. One of my favorite role players, if I'll call him a role player of all time. And again, we're missing the last 10 years on this list. So
kind of like Kenny Gregory, right? Kenny Gregory, right? A little bit similar.
A little like Kenny Gregory.
Yeah.
And he's going to – when I look back at some of these teams, I think – and even though Keith Langford was there for 4 years and will always be – he did a lot for Kansas. But he kind of that swing player, good defender, take it to the basket, kind of like Kevin McCullough this year. And it's one of those guys that 2 years later, you're like, oh, yeah, I remember him. He wasn't one of the stars, so maybe he's not that guy. So,
well, speaking of stars, number 25, Wayne Simien, who we just mentioned, Matt's favorite, and your favorite. I guess I'm the only Kansas QB, normal contributor that doesn't know Wayne Simien. Number 24, Drew Gooden. I loved Drew Gooden. That was right there in the sweet spot of our high school years, watching Drew Gooden play. And, of course, he also played in the NBA.
Had a really good NBA career that went along after that. But 23, Adonis Jordan. Again, along that line of Adonis Jordan, Richard Scott, Steve Woodbury. Those guys, those were the guys. Those were the first guys that I remember when we would go outside to your patio to play basketball, and we'd start saying, I am fill in the blank. And it was Steve Woodbury, Adonis Jordan,
Danny Manning,
Chapman, Danny Manning. And if everybody got taken, now I'll go back to my Iowa reference here, I would be Dedrick Willoughby from Iowa State.
While you were Dedrick Willoughby, I was Chris Piper, who came from Lawrence, Kansas, and I looked his stats up because I loved him. He was not much of a contributor, but again, I don't know, he's like the slow white guy out there like that. I could be that guy. I could be Chris Piper, and he's from small town Kansas, so I always wanted to be Chris Piper. So there's
22, Jeff Boschee.
Now this one,
bald-headed assassin.
Yeah, he was the leader in 3-point shots, I believe, and for a while, and he was the guy that taught him or took credit for teaching him shooting. I don't know, a guy named Bob Drake. You remember Bob Drake? And I went down to Kansas City and got shooting lessons from him. And it's completely different. My dad was called a shot doctor, right? And he'd shoot, elbow in shooting, right? And that way of shooting. Bob Drake taught elbow out shooting and shooting through the window. And he taught like jumping to the forehead like this, but have your elbows out so you can see the ball and shoot along a track. And I remember Dad's like, oh, here, this guy's Jeff Boschee's coach. And taught him, and I'm like, oh, Jeff Boschee's awesome. So I went down there, and it really messed me up because I spent my whole life shooting Dad's way, and then with the shot maker, the JoJo White, shot maker, and then I tried to shoot the Jeff Boschee way, and then here I was like in the middle of a basketball season, like, Dad, I don't know what to do. Anyway, Jeff Boschee, great shooter, loved watching him play.
21, Russell Robinson, one of my all-time favorite Jayhawks, just because of the point guard position he played. Mario came on the scene at the end of his career, but Russell really was the toughness behind that team, and he made some tough shots and corrected his free throw shooting as that season and tournament run went on to really carry us. So shout out to Russell. Russell, if you're watching, I don't know why I just said
what's up, Russ?
What's up? Dave Robish, another old timer, but one of the all-time greats. 19, Cedric Hunter. 18, Brandon Rush. Okay, he'd be one that I would stop on just because it made so many people in Missouri mad at the time that I was going to school in Missouri that he would leave the school in Missouri. And Kareem played at Missouri, his brother, and they were super talented from Pembroke Hill, right? And but came to Kansas, and again, he played in the NBA for a while. Another one of those guys that's an unsung hero. I shouldn't say unsung because he was super talented.
Oh, yeah.
But just an unselfish player when he was at Kansas. Could have scored more, but played in the system.
Yeah, and playing in the NBA, right? But I just remember thinking, like, all right, there's Brandon. He looks the part. He looks so good. And like, why isn't he scoring more? How come he keeps passing to the guy that's missing the shot? Why doesn't he just go score? So I always feel like, come on, Brandon, just a little bit more. Just a little bit more, Brandon. Yeah. He played for the Warriors. True story.
Knocked in a couple big threes down the stretch.
Yes. This next guy, Tyler, big fan, okay? Scott Pollard. And by big fan, I mean super memorable. I love Raef Lafrentz. We're going to get to him later. But Scott Pollard and Raef Lafrentz, when they were together at the same time, that was a team right there. Those twin Tylers. Pollard obviously played in the NBA for a long time and got kind of weird. Got kind of weird there, Tyler. Or I mean, okay, weird's the wrong word. He just kind of grew his hair out, started painting his fingernails, and he was a little different. He's a little different than I remember him at KU.
He did.
You know?
But he was also I haven't listened to his podcast in a while. He was on the book kind of along the same lines as Paul Shirley, who was from Iowa State. They were just some different ducks. But he was a part of that 1997 KU team that my sister referenced that is to this day my favorite Kansas team of all time. If you remember back to our basement, Steve.
I remember.
We had the wood paneling of the 70s that was in the basement. That was still there when we were growing up. And there were 3 separate areas that were taped and covered. One wall was entirely Sports Illustrated covers, which was not uncommon back then. You just make a wall for sports. But we had a giant wall of Sports Illustrated covers. The other wall, Becky had 2. One was the first women's dream team as they came through with
Lisa Leslie and
that crew.
Cheryl
Swoops, and all. But the big wall that we took all the time in the world, we cut out every picture from everything and hung them on the wall, was that 1997 Kansas Jayhawk team, and there was just a Jayhawk wall in the basement. And I believe she still has the video tribute, the after season tribute, that I will still cry when I watch. That had that team on there. Scott Pollard hit a 3 on senior night and then did a cartwheel on the court. He was just a character, and he's a part of that team that we always loved. So,
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, 1997 team. We'll move on. Number 16, that possibly wore the jersey number that's been one of the greatest jersey numbers, at least recently, number 4, Sharon Collins.
Yeah, you got to like him because, number 1, he didn't have a neck. And number 2, he was a great football player. So,
yes.
Yeah, I like that.
He also went from Sharon, and he was a big factor in that 08 game. He was kind of the spark plug. Even though Mario hit the shot, Sharon was a big sparkle there. Number 15, Eric Chenoweth. How the heck he's at 15, I have no clue.
I don't know why he's 15 either, but I loved him. I always loved the tall, ungangly guy. I loved the tall 7-foot guy. I think he was, 6'11" or 7 feet tall. But I loved watching him play. But, yeah, I don't know that he should be up this high.
Okay, number 14, go.
Okay, so number 14 on the list here, ladies and gentlemen, played from 1999 to 2003. This is my guy. Okay, this is Kirk Heinrich. Now, Kirk Heinrich, why do I love Kirk Heinrich so much? I don't know. I do know. Okay, first of all, I liked how he shot the ball. Number 2, I liked how he looked vaguely like Harry Potter. Number 3, I loved that team that they played on. Was it 2003 or 2002 when they was it 2003? Yes, no, 2002. When they lost to Carmelo Anthony's team. That year he'd had some ankle issues, right? And so he had these braces. I had ankle issues like through my entire career from about 8th grade through my sophomore year. And the reason why I didn't have ankle issues my junior and senior year of college was because my dad bought me the same ankle braces that Kirk Heinrich wore in that championship game because he was having all these issues. Got the same ankle braces. I never had a problem again. I also never dunked after that point. I also never couldn't move side to side quite as fast anymore. But I never turned another ankle, and it's because I had Kirk Heinrich's ankle braces. And then he went to my favorite NBA team, the Bulls, and I bought his jersey, and he was a long-time pro. Like, he wasn't great, but he did really well. NBA Street Volume 3, I always put Kirk Heinrich on my team. And even though he oftentimes would stay on the bench, I always felt better knowing that Kirk Heinrich was on my team in NBA Street Volume 3.
He did, but he had a good career. He averaged there was a season that he averaged over 16 points and almost 7 assists a game. Like, it wasn't like he was a nobody in the NBA.
Oh, no.
Like,
he was legit.
He could play.
No, he was good.
Play.
No, he was. I would just say that in the lore of Bulls history, he's going to be down the list a ways. But he was a legit NBA starter for sure. And it's not like they were trying to get rid of him.
And fun fact, his wife ran track at Northwest Missouri State. So I was friends with her while she was on the track team, and super nice. Kirk would come to some track meets when he was available to, but I got to be friends with Kirk's wife.
So you're telling me that there's an avenue in which I could meet Kirk Heinrich, and I could go put on my Kirk Heinrich Bulls jersey, and meet him in that.
It's definitely possible.
We're gonna work on that.
I don't
Number
know.
13,
Okay.
Wayne Hightower. 59 to 61 means we don't care that much. Sorry if you're older and listening to this podcast and you loved Wayne Hightower. Greg Ostertag. How about that guy?
It was kind of like, who's the better big dopey guy, Greg Ostertag
Or Reeves.
Big Country Reeves? Yeah,
from Oklahoma State.
State.
Oh, that was a classic. Ostertag played with. Did he play with
Utah.
Stockton and Malone?
Yeah,
like he
he's
played, like he was like a legit 10-year big man that started and came off the bench. Yeah, Ostertag was great. There's a picture with Ostertag standing next to, I think, Darren Roberts. I think that's it was somebody, one of our friends was standing. I think it was Darren Roberts, and he's like 7'2", humongous. And just looking at our friend next to him was always really funny because he was a legit 7'2", 280 pounds.
Yeah.
Crazy. Number 11, man that needs no introduction. If you watched the 2008 game against the Grizzlies, that's Mario Chalmers. Yeah, he hit the shot. Is that your guy, or do we move on?
No, I was a Mario fan, but never a giant Mario fan.
Yeah.
Like he was. I liked Sharon Collins. I liked Russell Robinson. I liked some other guys on that team more than I liked Mario.
I liked Mario just like you. Wasn't my favorite, but I did like him. We both love Mario Chalmers, but again, not our top 5, maybe. Number 10, here at the top 10, and I don't know why he's number 10. I think, again, this isn't like scope of career so much as just what they did in college, but still, this guy had a pretty great college run. And this, I have his jersey, 1995 to 1998, The Truth, Paul Pierce. Now, maybe he got pushed on the list because he kind of came off as kind of a baby when he played for the Celtics. I don't know, but loved me some Paul Pierce. He could score any way you wanted to, and it didn't look like he was in good enough shape to be doing it, but he still was really amazing.
That's, you're talking NBA now. When he was in college, he was like long and lanky, coming from California, and we both had his jersey, and we had the exact same jersey that we wore all the time. So Paul was definitely one of our favorites. But now we're getting to Becky. Already took this as her favorite. Number 9 on this list, number 1 in my heart is Jacques Vaughn, who played the point guard position the way that I tried to play the point guard position, as a pass first, take care of the ball, but play great defense. And we also couldn't shoot very well. So we had that in common.
And that takes us to one of my favorites, number 8, Raef Lafrentz. I loved Raef Lafrentz, and for a couple different reasons. One, he looked a lot like the lead singer of Jars of Clay. I always thought that. Like, whenever I saw Jars of Clay perform, we've talked about Flood, their song, it looked just like Raef Lafrentz. So go look that one up on Google. He also averaged just under 20 points a game once, and his career rebound total is, like, way up there. He was just one of those guys that was just, I love big men. You like the point guards? I wasn't a big man, but, I was a shooting guard. But I still love to watch the big guys play. You got to love lefties. So there you go. Raef Lafrentz.
The next one's on the list they had. Darnell Valentine, all-time great. Bill Bridges, all-time great. Clyde Lovellette, definitely all-time great, but way before our time. So we're getting down to number 4, Nick Collison, a 2-time Big 12 Player of the Year. It's like he's one of, again, you talk about jerseys that are in the rafters, a guy that we watched when we were going through, like as we were going through high school, he was dominating at Kansas. So it was fun to be a KU fan at that time.
True story, Tyler.
I wish you would have got a national championship.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Me too. Right. Nick Collison, who was played with Kirk Heinrich. Collison asked a friend of mine. A friend of mine was asked by a member of Nick Collison's wood bat baseball team if he wanted to play. And this friend of mine said, would you like to play with me on Nick Collison's baseball team? And this was 2 years ago. And I said, yes. Yes, I would. And then I went home and I thought about it and I said, I would like to, but I don't have that kind of time. And let's be honest, my arm is shot at this point. I would just be doing it so I could say I was Nick Collison's friend. So
I would have done it.
Yeah. I should have done it. Love that guy. Number 3 on the list, Aaron Miles. I was a little surprised he's this high on the list. I mean, great player.
He's pretty high. I would, and again, this is previous to the last 10 years. So Aaron Miles kind of with me now. He was awesome. They went to the Final Four. His assist to turnover ratio was incredible. but he's kind of to me like Devontae Dotson was, that just played recently, an unsung point guard, kind of the way that Juan is right now, DeJuan Harris is right now. He's never going to get a bunch of recognition, but he was when he continue. Okay, we'll go. Number 2, Danny Manning. How is Danny Manning 2? The only way that Danny Manning is 2 is if you're a Kansas fan, you know who's coming at 1.
Yeah, if
but Danny Manning could easily be number 1 because of what he did and accomplished that number 1 didn't, and that was bring a national championship to Kansas.
He won with Larry Brown as the coach. He won what we call the Danny and the Miracles, an underdog story, if you're familiar with that team. But also, he played 15 years in the NBA. He didn't save the Clippers like they wanted. As a matter of fact, I remember when we were watching NBA, I never really felt like, as good as Danny Manning was at Kansas, I was like, well, why isn't he better in the pros? Well, if you look at his stats, he was pretty darn good in the pros.
He was
the Clippers just weren't any good.
No, and that goes back to he hurt his knees before you could hurt your knee and come back and still be effective. His knee injuries held him back in the NBA because he was so dynamic. Yeah. But that leaves number 1 on this list and will probably be number 1 forever, Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah, you can't take Wilt Chamberlain off your list. It doesn't matter who comes, especially in today's day of, the best players are 1 and done, 2 and done, whatever. Wilt Chamberlain's going to be hard to be beat. Obviously, we don't even need to talk about Wilt Chamberlain. Everybody knows who he is. I do want to give you, though, I text Charlotte McElroy because she's one of the biggest KU Jayhawk fans that I know. I wanted to see how she's doing. I was just checking in on her, see how she's doing. She's alive. She's doing okay. And she said she's probably not in an emotional state to come on the show. So instead, she did just text me some of her faves. So while she's eating her ice cream and preparing to go to work with a bunch of K-State coworker fans that she knows is not going to be fun for her, she wanted to let us know that she became a KU fan because of Danny Manning. So there you go, Danny Manning. Also, Sharon Collins was another one that she just really enjoyed watching. She also had a Wayne Simien story and had a picture of KU stuff all over her walls in her office at St. Joe Christian when we worked together. So thank you for contributing to that, Mrs. McElroy. Tyler, that brings us to the last little part of the show here. And this has been long, which is fine. It's fine. I mean, we skipped our last 2 episodes, so, or 2 of our last 3 episodes, so we need to, go a little longer.
And to our K-State listeners, we're sorry we're KU fans. We could do a K-State episode. It'd be a lot shorter.
Yeah,
sorry.
It would. Rolando
because we don't know. Yeah, we don't know a lot about them.
Yeah, we did. We weren't
Richmond.
K-State fans when we were kids, right? We weren't K-State fans when we were kids. We talk about Bradley Walker.
Last 10 years of KU basketball. And this is going to be super fast because this was kind of our informative years. But now, still some of our favorites and my kids' favorites now. Frank Mason is near the top of the list as, again, a point guard, but a go-get-you-a-bucket. Devontae Graham, who my nephew Ty has chosen as his favorite over the last few years, only because my son Case chose Ochai Agbaji as his all-time favorite Jayhawk.
Yeah, he was good. Matter of fact, when we first started watching, because we do the same thing you do, Tyler. We do football all the way up until football is over. And the last of the confetti falls from the rafters at the Super Bowl. And then after that happens, then that's when the Jewell family shifts into basketball for as far as like paying attention. And that's when we jump on board KU usually. And so we could come to it late. Jackson, the first game we watched, he's like, "Where's Agbaji?" I'm like, who? Agbaji, where's Agbaji? It's like, oh, okay, I know who you're talking about. He's not here anymore. And he was very sad about that.
And Jalen Wilson, even though the season didn't end this year the way they wanted to, is going to go down as an all-time great, as the Big 12 Player of the Year. Grady Dick, I'm afraid that we won't ever see him again in a Kansas jersey, but he's going to be – I'm glad that the kids were old enough to watch him play because he's a great shooter. We didn't mention Andrew Wiggins. We didn't mention Ben McLemore. There's a bunch of great players in the last 10 years, but, again, we focus more on Svi Mikhailuk on the teams that we really like. The big guys.
Here's one I want to mention because this list, when this list came out, This guy was a junior, so that's probably why they didn't include him, because he accomplished most of what he accomplished his senior year. I love Jeff Withey, and I will not apologize for loving Jeff Withey. I was at the game where he blocked the shot that broke the record, the KU record for blocks in a season or career. I can't remember now which one it was, but the place went nuts. It was so cool, and I just love watching big, tall, gangly guys blocking shots. It's one of my favorites.
So Sasha Khan, 4-year player. Cole Aldrich, 3-year player. Jeff Withey, 4-year player. Joel Embiid, wasn't at KU long? Not bad.
But we're all a little grumpy with him still. Like Azubuike, both of them. Like, I mean, it's not their fault they got hurt.
No.
But how much more would we love them had they not gotten hurt and then led us to a title? I think quite a bit.
A lot.
For our last decade guys, I picked 2 that I really enjoyed. Again, these are our favorites, not necessarily the best, but they're still really good. Thomas Robinson, Matt Pally mentioned him. I just love watching him play. Again, a big, powerful guy. And then Christian Braun, who left last year after his junior season. Boy, I wish he would have come back. And I just really enjoyed watching him play, and partly because he was a local guy, right? Anytime you got to Kansas, a local to Kansas University, I like to cheer for him. So those are my 2 guys, Braun and Robinson.
I'm going with Frank Mason and Ochai.
Ochai Agbaji. Well done. Well done, Tyler. And you know what? That does it for the things that we remember. As we reach 2013 in the Bill Self KU coaching tenure of life, we're just thrilled that we remembered something. Kansas QB is a production of the Jewel Media Podcasting Network. And before we go, we want to thank Tracy of Tracy Lindley Voiceovers for the way to professional audio. And of course, I would like to thank Tyler for clearing time in his busy schedule to talk about Rock Chalk.
Let's go Cats.
Let's go Wildcats.
Finish this strong.
Hey, are the Shockers still in it, Tyler? Are the Shockers still in it?
Didn't make the tournament.
So we got cheer for K-State. That's what we got left. Yeah. All right. Go State. Well, that's enough of that. For Tyler, I'm Steve, wishing you big fun in your small town. And I got to click over here. Now hit it.